when I took the edible, it was like a purple, pink, unicorn shining diamonds and shit. I said, oh hell no.
It was a unit like in the room, or
like
was it
just
flying, nigga?
just in like a multiverse type of shit. I said, yo, I don't know what the fuck is this shit is, bro. No, hell no, I wasn't talking to him. Nah,
did he say hey?
Nah, that shit was just glistening, shining. I said, I
ride
gotta wake up, huh?
Shut the fuck up.
Welcome to the Peace of Mind podcast, where every episode is a lesson and we're never selected without perspective. I'm King Sage.
I'm King Rel.
It's your boy Ronnie, a.k.a. King Coop.
Always, man. Well, shoot, how y'all feeling today, fellas?
Man, I'm feeling good. Life's just been life lately. As y'all know, life's just been life. But
always your end.
Hey, we got to get this man a t-shirt that just say life is life
with this emoji.
Because, bro, like, life just be life. You just got to thug it out. You know, you may have to crawl, over jump, do what you got to do. But, you know, I'm here. So I'm blessed.
We outside, man.
Nah, definitely that, real. It's a lot of changes, you know, for me and you. For you got a big change coming up. So I ain't got to put it out there yet. But I mean, we doing our thing, man. Embracing changes. You know, we're at a new chapter in our life. Pretty much, that's what we can sum it up to.
Yeah, I mean, we all 25 here, man. It's really the transition from 20 to 25 has really been powerful. And with us being more so, I guess you could say, mature beyond our age, it's almost like 20 to 30 in a way with the type of experiences we had. We ain't gonna talk about that, but
What's up, Bob?
And talking about old girl coming to the apartment.
See, why you gotta bring that up, man? We on air, man. We on there.
But I mean, I've been good lately, though, man. A lot of changes, really birthing myself into a new cycle. Today we're gonna be talking about drugs, and it's really divine timing for me because I'm actually transitioning into a sober next 6 months. I want to see what comes out of me when I'm not smoking weed, when I'm not just going to the bar taking shots. You know what I mean? I want to see what I can actually do when I'm out of that state. Right. Today we're talking about the epidemic plaguing not only the United States but our Mother Earth. I'm talking about drugs and addiction. More specifically, the drug and addiction causes and effect. The mindsets, the environmental factors, the situational factors, the connection these factors have with mental and spiritual health, family culture. Then creating a symphony of solutions that we all can carry forward for all of us to carry on together until we can carry each other forward. You know what I'm saying?
You've been working on your articulation. That man said a symphony of solutions.
Symphony, you like that, right?
That's nice, man. That's nice.
Peace, King. Appreciate that.
But nah, this is definitely a deep topic this week. We've been hitting y'all back to back with some heavy hitters. We really this is what the Peace of Mind podcast is about. It's about deconstructing complex problems and complications and providing simplified solutions. See, I'm nice with my words too. You see,
my dog, my nigga.
You know, we touch on, you know, it might be a little controversial or the uncomfortable truths, but it needs to be said. But like I said, we always do it from a peace and love perspective, so that way you can get the knowledge and then apply it to your everyday life. So yeah,
like uncomfortability is the bridge to growth and evolution. But with that said, fellas, I'm gonna ask you a question. King Riley, I'm gonna start with you. Just to give the people some context, what is your definition of a drug, of an addiction?
Man, my definition of a drug would be, you know, someone always needing the extra itch or something. Because if you look around, you know, like you see drugs in social media, you see it all over the place. You see it in school. So, you know, that's my take on it, is just drugs is just always something. Like, you're never satisfied. Like, that can be with cocaine, with weed, with heroin, Adderall. But yeah, you know, drugs and addiction is just messy, very messy. Addiction is obviously like when you get hooked on something, like you're going to fiend for it more and more and more. And then more so over, it's very hard to get rid of that addiction. But it can be done. but it's gonna take a lot of work to get rid of that itch and that, you know. Yeah.
So the drug is the itch.
The itch.
That thing that's like,
the itch.
But the addiction is the hooking of the itch. So
Right.
you like, it's kind of a little bit hard to get rid of that.
Right.
Okay.
So let me ask you then, so my definition of a drug would be anything that activates the endorphins and dopamine in your body that produces lessening effects. You know what I'm saying? The more you do it, the more that these endorphin levels within your body decrease. So as a drug, to you, Rel, since you said this, does a drug have to have the attachment of addiction to it, or is it just anything that you crave?
Anything that you crave, bro. Like y'all know me, like I'm a deep ass nigga, but you know, drugs could be damn near anything. But to, you know, be more specific, you know, if we're talking about like the mainstream drugs, you know, like I already said, cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, acid, promethazine, Ritalin, Adderall, Xan, and even down to alcohol. Like I know people say alcohol it's not a drug, but to me, alcohol's a drug too.
Oh, it's proven. It's proven. It's just that we consider it something different. And it's interesting you say that, man, because I agree with you on a certain level, but if you think about it, it's a conundrum with the word drug, because you got something called a drugstore where you go get allergy pills, where you go get cough medicine, where you go get stuff, you go get supplements, where you go get stuff that's supposed to be good for your health. But then we also say a person is hooked on drugs. Like I'm about to go buy drugs, I'm about to go buy coke, I'm hooked on heroin, I'm about to go get a drink. You know what I mean? So it's a distortion of perception with it. And after meditating on that for a while, I don't know, I feel like a drug and addiction in a way is low-key combined in the same thing. You know, when you combine whatever chemical, habit, or person you have been used to, and then for some reason you are almost become one with that, which is why it's so hard to take away or get rid of an addiction. It's just like when we talked about in the heartbreak episode, when you fall in love, you attach yourself to somebody so much to the point where y'all really do become one. And the longer you are with somebody, you know, if I cut off my leg and I'm with this person for so long, I'm cutting off my leg for them. Now this leg is our leg. And the longer you're with somebody, the more it becomes more and more a part of you. Going back to what Rel says, it's an itch, of course, but then that itch becomes a hooking, and now I'm hooked on this person. Or I could be addicted to going to the gym. I could be addicted to coke. It just, you know what I mean? It just doesn't stop with chemicals.
Well, it's interesting that you said that you brought up the whole drugstore thing, because I know you know, from the previous episode that we had, you have a strong, you try to take a lot of things from language. And the thing about drugstore, like I always thought that was weird when I was a kid. We going to the drugstore, but this person's over here on drugs, and this is a bad thing. Like, to me, when I hear drug, that's nothing positive. Even when, you know what I'm saying, you playing the commercials, you know, did you take blase drug? Like the word is drug. That sets off a red flag with me. So it's just like anything that involves drugs is not positive to me. I did a little research on this, man. The reason why I was talking about the endorphins and the dopamine is because, so you have to realize that there are levels to addiction, right? So basically, you know, endorphins are things that activate in your body whenever they activate in your body to reduce pain and stress levels within you, right? So you have endorphins, and then you have the dopamine. Dopamine is anything, the positive chemicals released in your body from positive memories, spending family time, reading a book that you really enjoy, swimming, playing sports. All of these things work to produce different effects when you consume a drug. You take the drug, it activates these levels that swell and that increase, right? And this is the thing that produces your high. So, of course, everybody knows, nobody here has hit a crack pipe, but everybody knows a crackhead is chasing that first high. You're not going.
Nah, he told me a story earlier.
You're not going to get that. So this is where you fall into the cycle of addiction, right? You're constantly chasing this thing, and the more you do it, your brain actually produces positive memories and things associated with these levels. So that's why, you know, they say too much of anything is a bad thing, because you're always chasing that level. But actually, the more you do it, your body is adjusting, is releasing less levels of these chemicals because it's adjusting for the influx that you're actually getting in your body. So your body's releasing less natural ones. So, you know, basically to wrap it up, that's what forms an addiction, and that's what makes it so deep. You know, these things that you enjoy doing so much, you do them regularly, it forms an addiction. So I think that a drug would be, you know, anything that you do that activates these levels in your body, because that's where you start seeing actually some of those physiological signs within your body when you get away from this, if you do it too much.
Wow. And it's funny that you mentioned, you know, dopamine, because dopamine is essentially a natural drug inside your brain, and it's twice more or quadruple more addictive than heroin. That's like a proven fact. So imagine like what you can do with that natural drug. Like you can obviously like get more shit done, but like you even said, too much of anything is bad. So, you know, too much of doing one thing that's actually good for you, it can be like a detriment, like working out. Like when you work out, you know, you get that dopamine off, you get that serotonin off, like, yeah, like I achieve all this great shit. But at the con of that, it's like, oh, well, damn, like now I'm sore. Now I have to heal. Like I can't just go hard all the time because if not, I'll break my body down. So, you know, balance is everything. If we're talking, you know, drug. And then I also want to add too about how you said earlier, you know, the drugstore. I always thought it was just like fucked up how, you know, CVS and Walgreens, they're pharmacists, like they're legal drug dealers, right?
Facts.
So they can sell the work, right, legally. But yet, if we do that shit, we're gonna get like damn near 10 years or 20 years of life just for doing what we got to do. But that's just how the system is. You know, it traps you. Like it gives you that illusion, like, hey, you know, if you take this drug from us, then you know things is just gonna be perfectly fine and dandy. Like that's not always the case, because guess what? You're a fiend, just like, you know, like the crackhead or the heroin addict. Like you're no different than him. It's just you rather listen to what a person in a white robe says because they're educated instead of actually seeing things for what they really are. So,
You know, I got a question for y'all that just popped up in my mind. I know I've been through this cycle, through the therapy, and then gone through the cycle of going to a psychiatrist too. And I mean, I was on Prozac, I was on anti-anxiety medications, bipolar medications, and I stopped doing it because the way that I felt when I took these medications, this is just for me personally, this doesn't apply to all, but the way I felt was it was just like weed. I could tell when the weed was coming into effect and I was starting to feel better and not really feel as anxious or sad or angry. But I also knew when it was wearing off. And when it wore off, it's almost like, just like any other drug. You know what I mean? What would you usually tell a quote unquote drug addict? You would say you're just trying to find a temporary fix for a problem that you're just ignoring. You know what I mean? It's just like if I push this, if this hat is my problem, and it's coming up, and I take some drugs and I try to push it back, it's gonna push it back, but you still have to deal with that problem. That's the same way that I really looked at that medication. And at what point is there a cutoff between the difference between psychiatric prescribed medications and the shit you get on the streets? Because I'm more of a supporter of not being on medication, because I feel like it takes away the individual's role in the necessity for healing and growth for the individual. You're looking, more people look to the drugs to heal them instead of get them off. And they're trading an addiction for an addiction. And they're trading a drug for a drug, but from gauging from this conversation, it's not about the drug, it's about what ties you to that drug. That addiction is the thing that is the essential problem, the combination of you and that chemical.
man.
Well, it's difficult to say, bro, because honestly, I think that in addiction is a combination, right? It's a combination of behavioral, cultural, and environmental factors, right? And biological too. You know, certain things run in your blood that you may have a inclination towards. For me personally, you know, I'm just being transparent, being honest with the audience here. I've had my battles with being addicted to weed. You know, and for me personally, it started off as just a boredom thing, right? So, this happened pretty heavily right after COVID happened. And, I moved out of college, graduated, got my first apartment. And, this is my first time living as a single man. I had a family. I had 2 siblings growing up. You know what I'm saying? The nuclear family, mom, father in the house. Went to college, had a roommate freshman year. Moved up to the apartments, had roommates. Rel and Jay. Well, Jay, I knew you in college. You know my roommates. Rel, you know my living situation. So when I graduated, I came home, and outside of work, I come home and it's just me. It's like I have all this free time, and this is a point in the world where nothing is going on. Pretty much everybody's staying at home. It's only so much Netflix you can watch. It's only so much, whatever you reading, whatever you doing to bide your time. So, that's people a lot of times say idle time is the work of the devil or something like that. When you have this
idle
time,
mind is the devil's playground.
Exactly, that expression right there. So when you have a lot of time, that can play into doing things that stimulate your brain. And that's, what people with addictions and people that are addicted to drugs oftentimes crave is just that stimulation. They feel like nothing is going on, so they lean towards the drugs to get some type of stimulation going for them. And then they get hooked on that, like I was talking about earlier, chasing those highs. At that point, it actually becomes a chemical reaction in your brain.
I feel like that's really the era that we're in. If I could call this era anything, I say it's the era of chasing highs. And I feel like we're chasing
on different levels, though.
On a lot of different levels.
A lot of different levels.
And full transparency, I feel as if I have an addiction to weed too. And not even just weed, I say I have addiction to stimulation. One of the reasons that I'm going on this sobriety trip, and transitioning, I don't want to say I started it yet just because I like to be fully transparent, is because I noticed, I said, since I was 17, I haven't been consistently sober for more than a month and a half. A month
Since
and a
17?
half, my nigga. Since 17, bro. Jeez. And it's like, it started out with weed and then alcohol. You know what I mean?
What else?
Nothing else. Nigga, don't try.
All right, we take your word.
Hell yeah. But, yeah, bro. And it's like, it's not the hard stuff. It's not like I'm sitting here doing heroin. I have done mushrooms, and I will always do mushrooms, but I do I've always, spaced out my mushroom trips for at least 6 months, but I usually go like a year and a half without doing it, right? But I was sitting back there and I was meditating on it, and I was like, damn, if I can't go a month and a half without doing something, stimulate my mind in some way, there's, I don't know, man. I just feel like and this is for me personally, a therapeutic moment. I feel like I'm not living through my full potentiality, because if I always need something outside myself to just live and to be present, because really when someone's hooked on drugs, like the bottom line is they don't want to be present in their present reality.
Oh, yeah.
When someone is hooked on any type of drug, they do not want to be present in their present reality. It's so unbearable or just bothersome to them that they just rather be high. Why? Because it's easier.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm gonna go on record and say drug addicts and people that are addicted to consuming drugs are some of the brightest and most creative people that we have. Because when you think about it, what we're talking about is people that crave stimulation mentally, right? So what separates the geniuses that, the Einsteins, the people whose synapses are firing on 10 all the time, from the person that wants the same mental stimulation as them, but that's not getting it? For me, like I said, I'm sitting at the house not doing nothing. I like to consider myself smart. I'm not going to blow my own whistle, but I like to be stimulated by things. I like to feel like I'm progressing and moving towards. I don't like to feel stagnant. So if I'm feeling stagnant, that can push into other things. And I think that'd be the same for some of the people out here. I mean, when rappers go to the studio, they smoke in order to tap into their creativity. You got all of these famous CEOs and creators that were on shrooms, all these other drugs. So what's to say that, drugs that's not running congruent with some of our brightest minds out here?
Man, that's very powerful. Again, this could go like in different ways. So I'm gonna use the analogy too, because I always like going to this place. That's where most of my family is from. So Philadelphia, Philly. Yeah. So there's this avenue up there. It's called Kensington Avenue. It's like a whole avenue of just drug addicts, and they call it Zombieland. So I was up there like 4 weeks ago for family issues and whatnot. I'm not gonna get into that, but family issues. And then I seen like both drug addicts like both arguing with each other, and then like one of them like stabbed the other one like in his arm, like just like right there. I said, "Oh shit," that was like wow. But I was thinking,
witness assault with a deadly battery.
Yeah,
assault,
bro.
What is it?
Like,
Charge called?
like that ass, bro. Like they was both arguing, and then dude just got him in his arm. I said, "Damn, bro." Like it's just fucked up because I'm thinking like, yo, and I just told my dad. I said, "Dad, like these were doctors, lawyers, engineers. Some of these people could have served in the military, but yet somewhere down the line, life just got a hold of them, and then they're just out here. And then if you see the documentary of some of these people, like they'll tell you like, yeah, once they do it, they keep doing it because it's a good way to cope with the pain that they have to deal with in life. It's a good escapism. It's a good nepotism to get them away from the fucked up reality. But they don't realize like they're digging themselves in a deeper hole. So
that's a powerful point, man. I also think it's important to highlight what Coop's saying. And what Coop is saying is it's really not just people that are just trying to deal with their painful reality. Mm-hmm. What I got from what you said, bro, was that I understand that things like weed and mushrooms and things like that, they were initially spiritual things. People smoked to get closer to God, but now things that were once spiritual are now just recreational. Mm-hmm. They're just purely recreational, and we use them on a day-to-day basis when they're not meant to be used on a day-to-day basis. Like you said, rappers smoke to be creative. That's a bad example because rappers don't smoke to be creative. Some of them do, but a lot of them just be smoking.
Yeah, that's
right. But I mean, I get your point. Smoking to get creative, doing psychedelics to elevate your art form. I understand that. I think that I don't have an objection to that. I think the problem just comes into play with the balancing of it, right? Like the core truth, I definitely believe, is that there's no such thing as a bad thing unless the thing has been used in excessiveness, right? When mushrooms are taken in excessiveness, that's a problem. When you're smoking too much, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it doesn't have to be like only do it for this amount of days for every single person. Do it contextually. I'm a big believer in contextual solutions, but it's really about just the imbalancing of those things. Mm. And I did want to touch on, here, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. Since we're talking about the brain, man, the brain is just so interesting because, like I said, we crave stimulation, and this really goes for all humans. Like when you think about people that get locked into solitary confinement, when you think about people that get locked into the mental, the psychiatric wards, if they're left alone for long periods of time, your brain starts projecting things. You start hallucinating. Some people start hearing voices. Like you naturally have to have this stimulation. So it's very interesting the connection between seeking stimulation and people that become drug addicts. I just started thinking about that while we were talking.
And that's interesting because you think about kids, bro. You ever watch kids play by themselves? They don't need as much stimulation as an adult needs stimulation. A kid will have fun by himself in the house, and he ain't got no toys. He'll be just doing a handstand on one hand and then do a backflip off the couch and run like a marathon and say he's in NASCAR. Like that's how really, it sounds funny, but that's how connected kids are. Yeah. And I think that's something that adults lose.
Definitely.
Adults lose that. And we look at, like, take the word isolation. I think isolation is a big thing nowadays, but we don't know how to be by ourselves. We always need a stimulant. Now, stimulation is necessary. You need stimulation to be alive. But I think one of the first pathways to peace, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, is learning how to simply just enjoy your own energy. I always talk about that on here. I've talked about that with y'all for years. It all starts with you, the connection with you. The connection you have with yourself is the connection you have with everything else. So in reality, if you are abusing any type of drug on the outside, it's because you're abusing yourself on the inside on some way, shape, form, or level. So that's the first thing we got to address, our connections with ourselves. And just to create a segue, I was once on the pathway of simply it is you and you. If you want a better life, you got to ask yourself, what does a better life look like? And you need to take the necessary steps to do that. However, I'm starting to understand more and more, it's really not just about individual recovery. It's about social recovery too. I sent this in the chat earlier today, and I touched on it on the last episode. It was this, Portugal had one of the highest rates of opioid use in all of Europe about 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were wondering, what are we going to do about that thing? What were they going to do about that problem? They tried everything. The thing that they tried was decriminalization of all drugs, from weed to crack, all of it, right? But it wasn't just that they decriminalized and said, let's see what happens. It was that they had treatment centers in place. They had a job stimulus package that gave people that were hooked on these drugs a possibility to live a life, a purpose to get up in the morning. And they went to these jobs and said, hey, we'll pay their first 6 months half of their salary if you employ these folks, right? They gave out micro business loans to people that were addicted. And they said, okay, if you're a mechanic, we'll give you money to start up your own business. If you knew how to do construction, okay, start up your own construction business. They catered to their skills. And they had community centers, health and wellness centers, spiritual centers. Going back to the original point with, it's just not an individual recovery, it's social recovery too, because it's also important that we are pack animals, and this is in our genetics and our DNA. We do have to have a sense of belonging, a sense of connection, and that really is what a drug is. It's something he said in the TED Talk was, I'm not gonna call it addiction, I'm gonna call it bonding. Because that's essentially what we're looking for. And it's not just drugs, it's with everything. We're looking for that connection. And these days we look for connection, and we look for, what's the word? People to be there for us through our Twitter followers, through the Instagram, through TikTok. Mm-hmm. But those aren't the people that's gonna be there for you. It's really gonna be your blood, chosen family, friends, brothers, your moms, your grandparents, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband. Those are the people, your community, your localized community is what gets you through those things. And for me, I think that's what we're getting away from. We're trading friends for more floor space in our houses, in our apartments. We're trading actual real relationships for fake virtual internet-like relationships. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough as far as just overall human happiness, which is inextricably related to these issues we're attacking today with addiction and with drugs.
Yeah, man. I think that'll be great to piggyback off your point, how these places, like, they're giving people a second chance. And I know for a fact, like in Philly, like the city of Philadelphia, they're actually about to start implementing kind of the same programs where, like, they get everybody from the neighborhoods and whatnot, all the druggies and whatnot, and they put them up inside these treatment centers, and then they'll give them some more money, they'll give them like better jobs, but it's simply there just to get them off their feet. And I think that's a very beautiful thing, because then if we get those people back on their feet, guess what? We have a better structured society, and and that's what we want ultimately. Like, granted, things are not going to be like 1,000,000,000%, but at least, it wouldn't be in the condition to which it's in now. But like I always say, we always talk about this too. I know you're saying like it takes, friends, family, everybody else, but at the end of the day, it's still on the person, on their eternal level. Okay, you know what? Yes, I'm not in a good spot right now, but this doesn't dictate who I am. Like, I'm gonna get myself clean. I am gonna do better. But it all starts and ends with them for what they want, because a man got to help himself first. You know, I can tell you as much, like, hey man, like, get better, head down to the treatment center. Like, I can support you, but it's still, you know, on you to get yourself out of that.
And to go to your hometown, your home was in Portland. They actually tried to decriminalize everything in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work. But the difference between what they did in Portugal, and they also had something in the Netherlands that tried the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between Portugal and Portland was that Portugal and the Netherlands, they already had these things in place. They had these job loans. They had the resources able to allocate to these people.
Mm-hmm.
But what Portland did, they just said, we're going to decriminalize it, and then we're going to do these things, and they don't follow up with their words. Which, like, I was thinking about this on the way down here, bro. Like, we've been talking about doing this shit. We've been, like, there's a whole bunch of people that have talked about, bring more wellness centers, micro business loans, community, YMCAs, community centers for these kids. Like, there's people that have done that. It's done a lot. Let's make sure we give it y'all credit. Like, let's not just make it seem like, like, this has not been done and the world is just purely evil. No, we don't give good enough credit. These things have been done, but it hasn't been done enough. And that's the problem. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about the right things, but what I want to see is the same accountability that you want to see us make on an internal level. And this is just where I'm at. It always falls back on the man, but men are a part of a system. If we can't hold the system with the same fucking accountability, then I don't want to hear you talk shit about us. I don't want to hear it. If we have legal implications as far as jail, punitive, or compensatory damage done to us as individuals. We need to hold that same respect and love to the sheriff's office, to the mayors, to state senators and representatives, national senators and representatives, the governments, big corporations, lobbyists, because if we're just asking them to do stuff and they're not following up on their words because, the House didn't do that. No, fuck that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You said this is what you're going to do. You need to hold your word, because we can't move forward. We can't move forward and be a successful, happy, peaceful country if we don't have a system that wants to see that too. And I feel like we need to hold those people accountable by giving them punitive legal implications if they don't follow up with their word. Attack their pockets. So you don't want to put in more mental health clinics in this city. Okay, so we're going to charge you $100,000. There needs to be a system set in place for that. So then it's not just all on us. No, now it's people up there that are just trying to stay greedy and trying to keep their power.
Right.
Well, little do y'all know, man, y'all really saying some controversial shit, because in this last presidential, what is it called when they run?
Mm-hmm.
The last presidential race.
Yes.
I want to say it was Bernie, but I'm not sure. It might have been Biden. That there was talks about opening up centers for some drug. I want to say it was meth. It could have been crack. But I remember this was all over the Breakfast Club. Charlamagne and DJ Envy was clowning, talking about this. And that was one of the big factors that caused him to lose that race. So what we talking about right now is a conversation that the mass is not even really trying to talk about right now. So I appreciate y'all for being bold and taking that stance. This also opens up another conversation about people that consume these drugs and that feel like they are perfect, that they feel like they can function. Like, for instance...
I want to talk about that too, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
For instance, man, like I know so many, like, okay, our generation, right? Of course, I think that we're associated with the generation of opioids. Like, we have a big opioid pandemic right now. But I know a lot of people that smoke weed, bro. And it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, people will smoke before they come into work. And it's like, bro, like, I can't go to work unless I smoke.
And we look at it like it's just weed.
Exactly. Not knowing that it's physical changes going, chemistry changes going on with our brain. And it's like, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? I've been smoking since 18, 5 years now. And it's like, okay, I like weed. I dibble and dabble in it. But when I smoke, I smoke to sit down and relax. I'm not thinking about smoking and going to work and putting in a full shift. because to me, that blows the high. That's defeating the purpose of me smoking. But then, have y'all ever seen Flight with Denzel?
You know
Yeah.
damn
Denzel
well I've
Washington.
seen that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, so
Go.
Denzel Washington, you got people like that. Like, you got people that full on snorting lots of cocaine, doing a high task, high operating job, drinking while they doing it. You know, it talks about the uppers and the downers. You know, what alcohol is I think that's a downer. Coke is an upper. They
balance.
They
each
take
other out.
these physical drugs and they actually balance out chemistry levels in their body. So, you know, what do you say to people that feel like they can do things like that? Are those people that would be going to these treatment centers, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
I have two responses. One, I have a response to what I would call the functional drug addict or the functional alcoholic, functional whatever. On one hand, just like in the police episode, I said there's no need for police to me in an ultimate ideal world because people need to learn how to take care of themselves, right? I'm not going to tell somebody what they need to do or what you don't need to do. However, I do think there's people that they lie to themselves about whether they're really functional or not.
Yeah.
So like if I can, to use Denzel as an example, if I can do my job, I actually know somebody that actually, like, he does coke and he's like, y'all don't need to worry about me because my bills are paid. I am paid, and he makes a lot of money. I am paid. My family's good. I can go out and I'm still good. So y'all don't need to worry about me. However, I know for a fact that you're not as happy as you let on.
Right.
Just like Denzel in that movie, he was not as happy as he let on. So, okay, you're functional, but functional alcoholism or any drug just means that you can participate in society's day-to-day functions, but on an internal level, you are incredibly, incredibly miserable. Because, like coke, for example, you feel great for like 15 to 30 minutes, but then like you want it. Like as soon as that shit goes away.
Right after that.
The better the high, the worse the come down is. So I just know, like if you're educated, you just know that, bro, I know for a fact that you're not okay. Right? And I think that there are going to be people that like that aren't going to go to these mental health clinics, treatment centers, or participate in the micro business loans or the job funding program, but that's the risk you have to take. I feel like just alluding to what you said earlier about how in the last presidential race we tried to do that. I don't know if it was Biden or Bernie.
I think it was Bernie.
I think it was too. But the thing that's wrong to me with people, in my opinion, is that we don't have real perspective of what life is. Life is taking a chance. You take that chance on people knowing that there's a risk that these systems can be abused, that it's going to be futile. Just like when you fall in love. When you fall in love, you're putting your heart on a plate and say, please don't stomp on this. Especially if you've had your heart stumped on before. Please don't stomp on this because it hurts so fucking much when my heart gets stumped on. Please, but that's the chance you take in life with falling in love, with trying a new job, with trying to better yourself in some way. You're taking the chance that this shit could be disastrous, but you're doing it in the name of, I want a more better world, or I want a more better self. This would be a more conducive thing for me and my life. And hey, I might be wrong, but it doesn't matter. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about doing something different because what we've been doing hasn't been working.
Man, I want to add on to going back to the Denzel movie. So you remember how in that scene where he had came home and then his son had called him out. He said, "Hey, Dad, like you this."
When he went to the mom's house. Yeah.
Because his son already knew, like, "Hey, bro, like what you doing? Like you out here like bugging. Like why are you doing all these drugs and whatnot?" And then Denzel was like, "Well, listen, son, that I got you this house. I done fed you. So." It's just you're right, Jay. People that are like that, they are functional addicts, but they don't understand that when they do that at the jobs, they're not only putting themselves in danger, but they're putting the livelihood of others in danger. And then next thing you know, boom, it happens. And then now, ever since that, in the movie Flight, his family got even more dysfunctional because of what he did. And it was just kind of like, he used him, paying the bills, getting the house, putting food on the table as an excuse to why he did what he did. Like, yes, I get it. You provided your family a great life, but at what cost? Like, your son hates you, but you did what you had to do, or you did what you did. But now it's like your wife divorced you, your son hates you, and now the family's just discombobulated.
Yeah.
And we could translate this, since y'all got on TV shows and movies, we could translate this to Snowfall. Snowfall, the character Franklin Saint. Franklin Saint, like that man was so money hungry for that money. Like,
his transformation, the character he was in season 1 is completely different than
way different, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Like, he went out pretty bad. Like, his mom's, she shot the FBI informant because she was like, "Yo, like, son, like, you are so money hungry for this that I can't let you go out like that." And then that's why in that scene, where they was in prison, like, he cursed his mom out. He said, "Hey, you ruined my life. Like, all you had to do was let Teddy just answer the phone so I get the money." But she said, "Nah, son, because you were so addicted to this money that I didn't want you to go down this path." And then, as you know, in the ending, Franklin, he essentially became just like his father, like another addict. First, he was an addict to hustling and then to get that money, but then he became a deeper addict, just being his father, and on crack and whatnot. And then his best friend was just like, damn, like in the end, like, damn, like they both was like crying and whatnot. And his best friend was like, "Yo, like, this is what the game brings. Like, wow, like my own best friend. Like, I seen him when he first started to look what he did to him now." So,
spoiler alert, because I ain't seen that shit. So now I know season 6.
Well, now you know.
But
it's because we value execution more than our personal relationships.
But I did want to get this out because it kind of got blown past. But to tack y'all's point about the drugs destroying the people, well, now we have medical marijuana. We have the marijuana industry is a $20 billion industry. We have people that are being treated from different psychosis, ailments with marijuana. So, there's always, we have the people that abuse, but we also have, there are certain drugs that treat certain things. Now, like I said earlier, a drug does have a kickback. It's got to have some point of, something bad about it. It's called a drug. But like I said, we're using that to treat different things now.
But it's also important to notice, one, most of the drugs we get on the street are not real drugs. The coke you get on the street, heroin, the meth, the weed you get on the street, it's probably, I would say off the top of my head, 30% weed, 30% of whatever drug you think you're getting, and it's a whole bunch of other shit that just has nothing to do with the plant, has nothing to do with the drug at all.
They're mixing it with the fentanyl now.
Especially Fetty. They got, they're mixing fentanyl with horse tranquilizers now.
Wow.
Like, they have that in Zombieland in
Philly.
So, like,
and rat poison.
And bro, like, so it's not even mostly that drug. So it's like, even the foundation we have with drugs, we don't even understand that it's not even really these things, it's other things. So when you talk about medical marijuana, at least that marijuana is pure marijuana. It's
the marijuana
more
from the white man is good.
That's another point too. That's another point too.
The marijuana that's being taxed is good. That's what you said?
No, it's not what I'm saying. But you go in a different direction than I'm going.
I'm not. I was building. So
hold up, bro. I won't finish. But see, like, I'm just making a point in terms of like real weed and real heroin. Of course, you can get in the conversation of, I mean, this is what the white man's feeding you. This is what the government's feeding you. That's another conversation. However, I was actually talking to my guy Chris about this outside. The heroin you get in the streets is not really heroin, but you have more heroin than the morphine they give your grandmother that has a hip replacement, and they take you out. They put you out, and then they bring the grandmother out, and then she goes home and shit, right? She's not addicted to heroin, but she can go to the hospital and get a hip replacement.
So do you think that the people that, with drugs being federally mandated, backed by the FDA and whatnot, all the drugs that you get in the hospital, I think what you're trying to say is you're kind of safer with that because when it comes to the streets, I mean, even shows like Snowfall, stuff like that, they're like, okay, we're gonna step on this. That's what they call it in the streets. We're gonna step on this. We're gonna mix it with the fentanyl. We're gonna mix it with the, whatever chemicals they putting in it to stretch that brick out or whatever it is they selling. So when you in the streets, you get more probabilities of that. But also, man, so obviously weed is a big controversial topic in the United States because it's not legal everywhere. Certain states are legal, certain states are not. There's a big problem, a big problem going on right now with up in Colorado. Of course, we all know in Colorado weed is legal. We're having an epidemic with how potent the weed is getting, right? So I did a little bit of research on this one. So two of the biggest things right now going on up in Colorado with the weed, you have two things called wax and shatter. So wax, are you familiar with wax?
Mm-hmm.
We did wax in college.
I've done wax a lot of times. I ain't done shatter though. What the fuck is that?
Shatter is like it's kind of easy to show. It's kind of what I saw. It was kind of like a liquid that has like bubbly joints in it. It's a pure concentration of THC basically.
Damn.
So the weed that was associated with the hippies generation. The amount of THC that they were smoking in there was 2 to 5%. The shit that they're dealing with right now in Colorado with hybridization, wax, and shatter, and trying to produce stronger potencies, this weed is up to 90% THC. Mm. So, you got
That's
the street drugs. You got the street drugs that's stepped on, but you also got right now in the marijuana industry, we're getting, this weed ain't strong enough. I'm gonna mix it with this. I'm gonna mix this indica and this sativa. I'm gonna make this hybrid that's 90%. And when you have this, it's producing a lot more psychosis effects with the youth. There's a big problem with the teens up there right now. They've actually passed some laws to limit how much you could buy. Like I think as a teen, you can only buy up to like not a teen, but like 18 to 21. You can buy like up to 7 grams. And then like once you're older than that, it's only like a handful more, but they're limiting how much you can do because the weed is so potent and it's actually producing a lot more psychosis effects. There's a lot of people suffering from schizophrenia. It's also producing big anxiety issues, which I can speak on personally. When I smoke too much weed, I get anxious. So I don't know how people just blow down all day, but it's different types of people, man. You got the Snoops, you got the Wiz Khalifas that just smoke all day, every day. I don't know how they do that shit.
I mean, yeah, but that's tough. That's really tough. Real, what you got to say about that?
I was about to add on. Like I know, well, forgive me. Well, y'all correct me if I'm, wrong and whatnot. But as far as like my experience with weed, it makes me feel like more chill. But then, I took like edible. I ain't gonna say his name, but he stays in Charlotte. I went to his crib and whatnot. And then, like, when I took that shit, like, I was like, yo, like...
Bro, you talking like you went to an actual plug. I ain't gonna put it out there, bro.
Hey, man. But,
life.
Yeah, life, bro. Yeah, bro. Like, when I took that shit, like, when I took that edible, like, it was good, but then it just, like, fucked with my mind. Like, I started seeing, like, this different, like, purple, pink unicorns. Yeah, bro. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, I gotta, like, snap the fuck out of it.
You saw purple?
Like purple diamonds and of a unicorn. So I had to like get back to myself. And then
bro, please walk me through this experience.
Yo, drug experiences. Let's go.
Please,
drug.
Okay, boom. Real, you first, nigga.
Okay, so like I said, when I took the edible, it was like a purple, pink, unicorn shining diamonds and shit. I said, oh hell no.
It was a unit like in the room or
like
was it
just
flying, nigga?
Just in like a multiverse type of shit. I said, yo, I don't know what the fuck is this shit is, bro. No, hell no, I was talking to him. Nah,
did he say hey?
Nah, that shit was just glistening, shining. I said, I had to wake up, huh?
Shut the fuck up.
You ain't shit. You ain't shit.
I smoked moon rock before. And with my nigga Tyler from high school, and we were hotboxing that shit. It was the first time I ever smoked it. And nigga, we had music playing. I saw notes. Like I'm talking about notes, like the actual like lines and the motherfucking curls and shit. That shit was crazy.
Man,
that's deep because that's just on some other shit like plugging this guy who's on YouTube. It's a guy named Matt Pat who runs a channel called Game Theory. And he basically breaks down different things from video games. he breaks down the science behind it to see if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked at like the old video games of Sonic, how fast he was running the frames per second to see his actual miles per hour, see if he could actually achieve the speed of sound. He looked at in Assassin's Creed, you got the leap of faith. He looked at if a person could actually survive that. Like it's an interesting channel, Game Theory on YouTube. But one of the latest videos I was checking out, he was talking about in Assassin's Creed, you got something called Eagle Vision. So basically it's a mode that you tap into that highlights certain things in your environment, whether that's an objective, a door, a target you got to take out, whatever. And the topic was, is this possible? And basically it is possible, bro. So basically it's possible for you to, and everybody has this ability, it's possible for you to attune your senses to hear sounds, to hear color, my bad, to hear color, to see sounds. These are certain things that I think they did an experiment that it took only about like 2 months for these participants in the experiment to achieve. And so what we're saying is actually true. Like what you talking about, that you can actually hear a color and see a sound.
And that's crazy because I mean, you just said people take drugs to enhance their creativity, and that's kind of like a manifestation of your creative expression, being able to see music notes. Yeah. That's crazy.
Did you finish your drug story, bro? You saw the unicorn.
Yeah, we went left with that, man. Go ahead, man.
So I saw a unicorn and shit. So me, like my conscience was like, hey, bro, you gotta wake the fuck up, bro. Because if not, you probably gonna overdose. Like I'm not even gonna lie. So I forced myself to wake up. So I wake up, like I'm sweating and shit. I'm like sweating and it's just dark. And then the time just went very slow. So I said, I can't do this shit no more.
Yeah, man. Bro, edibles are fucking dangerous, man. Like I remember my bad experience was like I was working at Olive Garden, you know, the server lifestyle. Half of them dudes are like potheads that serve for real, or just drugs, period. But it was this girl, man, her brother made like, I want to say it was weed brownies. And she bought some to work. And they was potent. They smelled potent. At this time, I hadn't really had a good experience with edibles. Like I had some gummies and whatnot. They didn't do anything. So I was like, all right, bet. I'm going to eat, you know what I'm saying? She gave me like 3 of them. I was like, I'm going to eat one of these brownies. And, you know, I could taste the THC. I could taste the weed in it, but I just was like, all right.
That's how you know it's strong.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, I know it's going to take a little minute to kick in. I waited 30 minutes, didn't feel anything. Ate the other one. And then it was late, so I was like, fuck it, I'm about to go to sleep. Let me just eat the other one. Bro, when I tell you I woke up at like 3 a.m, and like, bro, I felt like I was going to die. Like, my heart was racing so fast.
That's a scary
And
feeling.
I was praying so hard, bro. I was like, because it gets to a point when you get so high, like you can't control what's going on in your body. And that's the scariest part. And I didn't got that to that point from smoking too much weed one time, where it was like once your heart start beating weird and you don't know what's going on with it, that's scary. You know, so it was, I was having the sweats. My heart was just going crazy. Like I couldn't come down, and I didn't like that. So I was praying hard, bro. And like, I just had to thug that shit out. And I was at my parents' house on top of that. I was back home.
Yeah, you were anxious then.
Yeah.
Shoot, man. My drug story ain't gonna be it's not gonna be an edible story, it's gonna be a mushroom story.
I ain't done that before. Okay, what's up?
Mushrooms are something that I eternally love because the person that you see today is because simply off my first trip. Every time I do mushrooms, it's never a recreational thing. It's always spiritual. First time I ever did mushrooms, it was introducing me in the perfect environment. I always tell people, if you are going to do mushrooms, make sure you have a good teacher or a mentor there for you, because I had people there that weren't even on mushrooms. It was these 2 girls, Kid and Kiki. They were girlfriends, right? And we were at their house, real artsy setup, like paintings all over the wall, pot heads, you know what I mean? Those college hippie types, right? Mm-hmm. Walk me through, like, you know, how you should feel and how to approach a bad trip and whatnot. I didn't know what to expect, but I was like, bump it, right? Me, MJ, and Preston, we shout out y'all family. We had took on them. We put them bitches on pizza because mushrooms are disgusting. First of all, when you eat them, they're terrible. They taste nasty. I ate them, and then, you know, all of a sudden, I believe the way it started out was that they ended up going outside, but I was at Ken Kiki. They were painting. Then all of a sudden, in the middle of a paint stroke, my hand just started like feeling funny. And I was like, whew. I looked over at Kiki. I said, Kiki, I'm painting some shit right now, boy. She said, oh, you tripping, right? But I mean, like, just long story short with that, bro, like, when I was on mushrooms at that point, it's like a interconnection that I just couldn't deny. And I started to get on a spiritual journey then. I was drawing the line between believing in God and atheist, but I was more so on the atheist side at that point in my life. And I remember me and MJ were walking around just the whole area. This was behind, what's them apartments over there?
Grove.
Not Grove. But Spring Garden apartment.
Okay.
Across some Spring Garden apartments.
It don't matter.
Okay, well, if you go to UNCG, you know what I'm talking about. And I just kept looking up at the sky and everything, and like, no bullshit. Like, the only thing I was thinking of, this is what life is. And also my approach to language. You don't need to speak on what life is. Life is just life. You can't describe life. I can't define life to you. I was telling a homeboy yesterday, nobody is definable. Our problem is that we judge people. And another problem is that we try to judge people into salvation. But that's getting a little off topic. But the conclusion of that trip, we set up some beach chairs. We were sitting on the porch, and we just watched the sunset. And that right there, as the sun was going down, it's just like, in that moment, I received all the answers I ever needed to receive in life. And now the way that I approach life is, I don't talk about deep philosophical things because I'm trying to find an answer to life. I don't do anything because it's like a necessity, because I feel like I have to do something. I don't find that I need to gain anything. I simply do it because I want to.
So I've heard, like, on shrooms, you can hear or you can see the trees moving. They say something like, basically, like, everything has a spirit and you can see it when you're on shrooms.
That's
like,
a good
I'm
way
looking
to
at
put it.
this music stand right now. If I'm on shrooms, I can see this joint like moving, like almost like breathing.
And it's not it's not even a hallucination. Like, you got to understand that all solids, like this right here, solids are just fast moving particles and atoms. They're just moving at a rapid rate. That's why you can't go through them, right? That's what a solid is. So my whole perspective on even hallucinations has changed. Like, I don't believe most hallucinations are hallucinations. I think that you're just accessing a different dimension in life and in perception that you just normally couldn't get when you're just in a quote unquote sober mind state. Now, I do believe there's ways to get there in a sober mind state. I think that goes into Shaolin monks, people that do deep meditations and going into old African religions and Asian religions. But that right there, I mean, we're talking about drugs, but I mean, it's crazy. A drug, I grew up around drugs, but a drug is the very thing that really led me into what I would call my personal salvation.
Or on some deep shit, bro. You talking about the different dimensions. I really started thinking about this. Like, I think that's true because, like, even like, okay, 2 examples, right? When I sneeze, sometimes you had that sneeze and your eyes get a little blurry. You see all them things floating in the air.
Oh, yeah.
I have a vivid memory when I was young. Like, I was probably like 2 or 3. I think I was 2 because when we moved into my house, I was 3. I remember waking up and seeing, like, it was pitch black, but it was a bunch of things floating in the air. It's kind of similar to, like, when you sneeze or you get lightheaded and you see those things. I think that when that happens, you're actually you tapping into, like, a different dimension. You're seeing different things. And then also, bro, like, size matters when it comes terms to, like, dimensional things. Because think about it, like, if you an ant, right? Very small. We exist in the same universe, planet,
We exist in the same reality.
Yes. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. we exist in the same reality as ants, right? But I could live my whole life as an ant and never see a human being. But I can see that ant. And the same could be said for us as humans. We could live our whole life on this earth and not know what's bigger than us outside of us. But if that thing comes by us, you know what I'm saying, it's huge. It's way bigger than anything that we can imagine.
A question is not something to be answered. A question is something to be lived. And I'll end that right there. But just to segue, because we're running short on time, guys, we've hit a lot of things today, y'all. personal stories. We touched on examples around the United States. We've dug deep on the definition of drugs, addiction. Let's talk solutions, guys. I hit on one earlier in the episode, but really, what are some solutions you think you have for the United States, the world? How do we bring down this compulsion to overstimulate ourselves and to connect with these drugs?
I would definitely say more treatment centers. Obviously, if we have those people there that's willing to get themselves clean or to balance themselves out, that would be a really big factor on the healing. And then also, we do need more spiritual, I guess. I don't want to say life coaches, but more spiritual, coaches there to help guide people, to let them know, like, hey, man, you know what? I was just like you. Like, literally, I was just like you. I was on drugs too. So when you come around me, you can be as open and transparent. I'm not going to judge you. And I think oftentimes in society, we judge so much, not realizing that that can be you too. Like, you can literally be just like the crackhead you laugh at or the heroin addict you laugh at. Like, that can be your reality too. So if we have those type of people there that understands what the next person is going through, then, that'll be another component of healing. And then just making sure that people and that everybody is doing their part. Because it's, like you said, like, yes, it takes everybody. Like, it isn't just one man. Like, yes, it is on you to change your circumstances, but at the same time, it takes a team to make everything happen and then to make it do what it do.
Love that, homie.
Appreciate it.
Ronnie?
Man, we need the Peace of Mind podcast. That's what we need.
Goddamn rock, boy. That's what we need.
But nah,
What
man.
you need, man? What you got?
A cool thing. So we were talking about the brain earlier. The body is just so fascinating, bro, because we actually have something that we can all do. Once again, we can all achieve. It's called natural highs. And I think everybody at some point in time has experienced a natural high. What a natural high actually is caused by is basically an overflow of endorphins doing your favorite activities. So it could be yoga, meditation, exercise, laughing, family and friend time. It's also known as a runner's high. And I think, have y'all ever ran track before? You were in cross country, right?
Yeah.
So you know that feeling like when you just exerted yourself and you're done and you know that you ran that 5 miles, whatever you just ran, and you did that and you just get that feeling of euphoria.
Right.
I guess that's where that name runner's high comes from, but those are the feelings associated with this natural high.
It sounds like delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification?
That's what it sounds like. I mean, it's a different way to put it, but
I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna just say, like, it'd probably be like a mixture of overcoming challenges that you thought that you couldn't do, mixed in with you really enjoying it. You really enjoying doing something and overcoming the challenges that you had to get to that final joy of achieving that goal. But
gratification.
Okay, I mean, that's what you want to say. But basically, yeah. So this is one thing that basically we can do naturally without any exterior substances in our body. And that takes time. I'm gonna take a page out of King Sage's book. Like, you really have to be connected with yourself and know what activities you enjoy, what's going to bring you joy, what is going to. The body has a way to naturally heal pain and numb these pain with these activities that you do that release those endorphins. So I say natural high would be a substitute towards substance abuse and addiction. And I think that's something that more people should tap into.
That was great points, bro. I'm really gonna feed off both of y'all's. There is no I in team. Getting in tune with yourself, that natural high, that delayed gratification. You said something powerful, that the body has a way of healing itself. The same way if I scrape my knee and my knee is all good a couple weeks later, your body, just like the earth, just like the universe, is self-regulating. And we have to understand that. Number one is always connection with yourself is the first, second, third, and fourth step. You gotta you got to learn how to just be with you. Be with you. Be with the king or queen that you are, the god or the goddess that you are. As far as solutions on the outside, I definitely think contextual solutions are very important. The localization of politics specifically, I think it's a lot easier to get a couple 100,000 people on the same page versus couple hundred million. Yeah, speaking with the United States, we're a culture full of subcultures. Real toleration is not getting rid of people we disagree with. It's just understanding that they're different and that's on them. I don't need to, I'm not going to take on your culture just because I disagree with it. That's for you and this is for me, right? Localization of politics, and we can do this by meditation in schools. I touched on this last episode. Those studies that I touched on last episode that happened in Canada in the correctional facilities in a couple neighborhoods in Toronto, I want to say. It was crime. It was heavy violence in these areas and in these facilities, but they incorporated meditation and violence dropped drastically. Grades improved drastically. And the area and in the facility is overall more peaceful. And these are prisoners and these are kids. And there's factual evidence showing that it works. Meditation at its roots is really just learning how to be with yourself, and which is what I preach to everybody, just learning how to be with yourself. If you can teach an individual learn how to just enjoy their own company and understanding that they are enough and they don't need anything outside themselves to live this life, that is fundamental, and that is what breeds ultimately successful societies, aka peaceful societies, right? And I also think we need to follow that Portuguese model in terms of decriminalization. And this is just me personally. I think we should. I don't believe in the idea of policing. I think that we have to teach people to be self-reliant. But even though people are self-reliant, we have to be able to rely on each other also to keep us accountable. So I think it's a delicate balance. However, I think with us following the Portuguese model, I think it's important for us not to make the same mistake that we made in Portland, which is not set up those treatment centers, not set up those job placement programs, not set up the micro business loans, not to set up the community centers, and not to set up gyms and just community places overall, not to set up those after we decriminalize everything, but set it up before. You set it up before. The institutions have a nice foundation in the communities. They already have a reputation. There's already staffing provided. There's already word of mouth about it. But Portland, they didn't have that same advantage. They might have had some, but they didn't have enough. And today, Portugal is down tremendously in addiction, in ODs, in HIV rates. It's proven. The proof is in the pudding. That's what I think that we really can do versus what we've been doing. And I'll just end my point on this. You don't look at an addict and you don't chastise them. You don't try to make them feel lesser than human or lesser than. You don't look at them and try to demonize them and ask them, why the fuck are you doing what you're doing? You don't do that. It's a place for it, but that's just how we're raised on this side of the world. This side of the world, we look at things, people, we have to punish these people. You don't always have to punish somebody. Not everything deserves a spanking. Sometimes people just need help and need to be put in the right situations in order for them to heal, instead of just cutting them off completely. And I'm a person that was raised around addicts. I know all about it. And I'm firsthand, I know how hard it is to deal with people that are hooked on drugs. You want to look at them and shake them and be like, why? You get really angry with them. You don't mean to, but you do. But you have to show that compassion. And at the end of the day, just say, hey, look, no matter where you are, no matter what state you're in, no matter how you're feeling, no matter if you're fucking up or whether you're not fucking up, whether you're relapsing or you're sober, I am here for you. Yeah. I love you. You can always count on me. I don't ever want you to feel lonely. I am always there. Yeah. Because the best way to be there for somebody is to not tell them that it's going to be all right, but it's to provide your availability to them. Because what is a more valuable currency than time?
Yeah, and we definitely have to have the administration as well as the compassion for so-called addicts, people that are addicted to substances, because there is actually, once you go so far down that road, there's actually, health problems that you encounter. Some people, even people that's quitting alcohol, like there's actually withdrawals and certain things that you go through. People have to be put in facilities to do this. They have to have a loving community around them. So that's something I didn't want to overlook, because a lot of people struggle. A lot of people want to do better, but they're fighting the battle mentally and physically. So that's what we have to keep in mind. And, to echo something that was said earlier, from a conversation I had earlier, in order to quit, you have to want to quit, or you're going to have to quit. Meaning, like, you physically can't do it anymore. Like, your health is affected by this. You have to quit. Or you kind of just looking around and seeing the effect of what being on drugs is. Destroying families. I'm broke. I'm homeless because I was addicted to this. Like, you have to have a need to change. You can't just, it's not something I can say if I know, not you, Jalen, but if I know our friend is addicted to this, I can't want more for him than he wants for himself. That's something he has to come to himself and make that realization.
Exactly. It's not about individual recovery. It's about not just about individual recovery. It's about social recovery. And in my point of view, I think addiction ultimately is of that obsession with connection, and that's what we all need. Is just that we find ourselves lonely at times. But y'all, that wraps it up. This episode. I hope y'all enjoy what we talked about. Really dug deep this week. I'm King Sage. You can follow me on Instagram at King Sage, KJNGSAGE.
King Rel, follow me at JERRELL.KEMP. Yeah.
It's your boy Ronnie, aka King Coop, _ King Coop on Instagram, _ KINGKOOP. And follow the podcast page too, Peace of Mind 888 on Instagram. We on YouTube too, Peace of Mind Podcast, and we are on all platforms as well.
Absolutely. Tap in. Peace. This has been Peace of Mind Podcast.